In this video, I'm going to be painting up the biggest Warhammer model ever made with the help of actual Space Marines. You'll see what I mean. 2.5 years ago, I rescued a life-size Space Marine statue from a junkyard in London and gifted it to my local gaming club to help them out after the pandemic. I say rescued, I paid $3 for it, but still, it was all sad and unloved and I couldn't just leave him there. My name's Guy, you're watching Midwinter Minis, this video is sponsored by NordVPN, and if you're wondering why the hell was there a giant Space Marine statue in a junkyard, well, it's not just any old Space Marine, it's from a chapter called The Blood Ravens, who were made up for the Dawn of War video game series, but these promo sculptures are bloody massive, and when the game isn't for sale anymore, big stuff like this is going to get chucked out. And yeah, there wasn't just one of them, there were bits and bobs in that junkyard from about 5 models. Now, a little birdie told me that these were actually from HMV, the UK's biggest bricks and mortar video game, music and entertainment retailer that went bust just a couple of years after Dawn of War 2 was released. So these were probably chucked out in the rush to scrap all of these stuff the administrators couldn't immediately sell. Now, back when I made that original rescue video, I said that I wanted to do something to it. It had a pretty basic paint job, so I thought it would be nice to either repaint it with more detail, maybe change the chapter, or go all out and chaos it up. The only small problem is, I don't really know how to do any of that stuff. I mean, sure, I've painted thousands and thousands of minis on this channel, but they're all teeny tiny. The biggest one, my Warlord Titan, took me more than 2 years to put together and paint. I have no experience painting stuff as big as that Space Marine, but I know a couple of people who do. Meet Duffrig, aka Iron Warrior Cosplay, and David, Exeter Cosplay. If you've ever been to a Warhammer event, a UK Comic Con, or seen any promo photos of anything like that, you'll have seen these guys and their amazing homemade creations. Whether it's Duffrig's inspired Iron Warrior Space Marine suit or his haunting Deathcore uniform, he's hard to miss. And David is literally Horus, and sometimes a blood-raged Khorne Berserker, and sometimes Warhammer Darth Vader, but always looking awesome. Now, I've met these two hobby legends a few times at Warhammer Fest and the UK Games Expo, and we've always chatted about doing something for a video in the future, but my stupid cogs never turned hard enough to see the obvious answer. Let's paint the Space Marine with Space Marines! Now, rather than drag the boys from Wales and Devon all the way over to Colchester, Hattie and I hired a van, tore down the Space Marine at 40k, the gaming club it now calls home, and took it on a 6-hour drive to the other side of the country. It was supposed to be a 4-hour drive, but yeah, the M25. Also, I say we drove, I've only been driving a couple of years, and even then I only actually have an automatic license. So Hattie did all the actual driving, like a proper adult. Okay, Saturday morning, ready to go. Hattie is on her way, maybe? She said she's on her way. What to do? What to do? Citroën. 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 We arrived with Exeter Cosplay in Exeter, obviously, and set to work. First port of call, let's reassemble this beast and figure out what we're going to do with it. As much as I'm sure a lot of people watching this right now will love the Blood Ravens, we all felt it would have been a bit of a cop-out to just give it a touch-up, and given that we've only got a weekend to work on it, we thought that maybe a total conversion would be a bit of a stretch, so we agreed on changing the chapter. Andy, the owner of 40k, the gaming club where the model lives, bloody loves Imperial Fists. That's his Warhammer army, and I think it would be really nice for him to have a unique, one-of-a-kind Imperial Fist guarding the store. Bit of a pain that yellow is one of the most difficult colours to paint, but hopefully the pain will be worth it. The original model had a chainsword, but because it sticks out so far and gets walked around all the time, it's been knocked off and damaged beyond repair in the last couple of years, so the plan is to make a less fragile, less obtrusive replacement. Hattie, Duffrig and I set to work masking off the areas that we didn't want to paint yellow, while David started grinding, sanding and chiseling off the Blood Raven's iconography on the head and chest. We were all masked up for pretty much all of these stages, just in case you're worried. None of us particularly wanted fiberglass in our lungs. We made a quick pit stop to the local Halfords to clear out their grey and white primer stock, and then tested the paints on one of the pauldrons, with a blast of grey all over, and then white from the top facing areas to make the yellow appear more vibrant on top. And then we sprayed it yellow using Colourforge's Sunset Yellow, which is a perfect match for the old Citadel Avalan Sunset spray, which they don't sell anymore for reasons. Yeah, looking good. The Colourforge stuff has a really lovely matte finish and wasn't fussy at all. We were spraying this in very cold conditions with high humidity and it still went on silky smooth. We still have to figure out what to do with this melee weapon arm though. Luckily, David had a plan. One of his old cosplays has a power fist that would be the perfect size for this Space Marine model. The only problem is, it was a Chaos Space Marine cosplay, and the fist is covered in chaotic emblems and pointy trim, so David set to work making some, modifications. Now, as you can see, the light was already failing on us on Saturday afternoon, so we unpacked the studio lights and cracked on, literally in some cases. The whole weekend we were also fueled by David's totally amazing partner Angel, who kept us fully stocked up on delicious drinks and snacks. Now, while David was reshaping the Bloodraven's chest icon into a more generic Aquila, the rest of us were priming and base coating the accessories. And yeah, I know, what about the chairs? And that's what I said to David, but he just shrugged and said, well, I need to paint them anyway. What a guy. After loads and loads of layers of primer and acrylic varnish, the Chaos Star texture on that power fist started to fade, and that was it for day one. Well, not quite. We actually all went out in the evening to the Exeter Yule Ball and had a blast. There were so many amazing costumes, and it was great to hang out with new friends in a less intense, worky, hobby project setting. Honestly, Dufferig and David are two of the nicest people you could hope to meet.
Attention, Imperial citizen. You may trust the security of your home wireless network, but I severely doubt you share that trust with the network of your tech-illiterate aunt, who is constantly downloading spyware. Fear not, citizen. I bring you great news that will warm your heart and soothe your mind this Candlemas. If you are visiting family or friends this holiday season, you need not worry about the security of the wireless networks you connect to. By utilizing a virtual private network, specifically NordVPN, you can browse, download, and communicate with impunity. All your activity fully encrypted end to end. No data scraping, no password snooping, no ISP monitoring, no identity theft. You may also utilize NordVPN to overcome the foolish geolocation restrictions implemented by popular video streaming platforms, as well as circumventing geographical bans on various news platforms enacted through dictatorial government overreach. If this is appealing to you, citizen, I bring pleasant news. By using the hyperlink attached to this transmission, you can acquire the services of NordVPN for 2 Terran years at a large discount, with 4 additional months included to sweeten the deal. Simply command your browsing interface to follow the hypertext transfer protocol nordvpn.com/midwinterminis to acquire this deal today. I trust that as a loyal servant of the Emperor, you will do what is required and protect your online presence without further delay.
Sunday morning, with hangovers all round, we set to work priming and base coating the model. But not before the 2 chaos-loving cosplayers added their own secret touch to the loyalist Space Marine. The taint of chaos. Now ready, set, spray! Gonna be honest, having 4 people spraying a huge model from all directions was a pretty stupid idea and made all of our hangovers way worse, but hey, it got the job done pretty fast. Look at this thing, fresh off the sprue. Oh, we also cover the rocky base bits with some foam sheets to stop them getting sprayed, and we'll see how well that worked later. We applied some edge and zenithal highlights with white primer, and after seeing how visible a Chaos Star on the repurposed Power Fist still was, we took some drastic action. Not content with being the most gracious host in the world, Angel is also a cricket master and cut us out a big old Imperial Fist logo to stick to the Power Fist to cover up that chaotic mess. We also realised that the waist part of the foam was basically a perfect stencil for putting the Imperial Fist logo on the pauldron too. After all that, the grey primer was definitely dry, and now it's time for the big transformation. Yellow. If you're interested in how many cans of spray paint it takes to base coat a Space Marine's power armor, it was 10. 4 full cans of primer and 6 full cans of yellow. While the Colourforge Sunset Yellow dried, I added a few select blasts of a bright yellow we got from Halfords just to add some brightness and saturation to the edges and top facing bits. Duffrig then started base coating and retouching the black elements while the rest of us dealt with this. This still very much looks like the Blood Ravens chapter logo, just a battered, smushed and sanded one. Time for a bit more of a radical approach. Like any sensible cosplayer, David has a giant stash of Halloween skulls at the ready. He found one the right size, cut the back off, figured out where it was going to go, chiseled the raven's tail off in the moonlight like some kind of deranged Greek sculptor, and shaped the seating on the skull with a rotary tool. After Duffrig patched up the exposed fiberglass with filler, we called it a day for the Sunday. We only have tomorrow morning to get this done, but David's hot tub was definitely calling. By which I mean, it called me and David. In the morning, it was a race against the clock to see how fast we could get the big things finished before we had to pack up at lunchtime and go film yet another secret project on the way back to Colchester. I accidentally dressed to match the Space Marine, we sanded the chest armour smooth, primed and sanded again, and I mean it's not perfect but it's way better than the wrong chapter icon. We removed all the masking tape to reveal the trim and the silver parts, and then I masked off a tactical squad marking on the other pauldron, just eyeballing it, but I reckon that's pretty bang on, and then we sprayed it black. We smushed the skull onto the Aquila in place with 2-part epoxy, and then to make sure it was definitely on for good, we drilled some big screws through its eyes. Adeptus Mechanicus approved. We spent the last hour or so retouching some parts that had been oversprayed, and base coating the Aquila and iconography red, but then we had to cut our stay short, say our goodbyes, and hightail it to Bristol. Now before we did, we all signed the shoulders, a nice little keepsake for Andy, and a nice reminder for us of the fantastic weekend we had together. So why did we go back via Bristol? It's not exactly on the way. Well, I had been invited to take part in the annual Jingle Jam charity fundraiser run by YouTube legends Yogscast, and I mean, how could I say no to that? The whole journey, there's actually been another bit of precious cargo in the van. Yep, that's the Warlord Titan, my hobby pride and joy, packed up in a simple cardboard box, wrapped with my kids' bath towels and spaced out with chunks of polystyrene. David also let me borrow the Tech Priest cosplay for the stream too. What a hero. It was a totally bizarre experience meeting these people in the flesh, and getting to have my first ever game of Warhammer 40k with the Warlord Titan, fighting never-ending hordes of Tyranids. Not only did we have a ton of fun, we also raised about £18,000 during our live stream. I chose to support Calm, the campaign against living miserably, a mental health and suicide charity that's close to my heart, and they do amazing work that can literally make the difference between life and death. The Jingle Jam is over now, but I'll leave links to that and Calm in the video description just in case you fancy lending a little bit of your support too. When we finally got back to 40k on the Tuesday, Andy's reaction made all the hard work worthwhile. We assembled it in the store and had a moment to take it all in. There's no doubt that this is very, very cool. But you know what? We can make it better. The next day, Hattie and I set ourselves up in the shop and set to work finishing all of the details. While Hattie repainted the black under armour that our masking had missed, I used thinned black and brown paint mixed together to add recess shading and darken the edges of all the panel lines. We cracked out some silver paint and mixed it with a bit of black to roughly match the pre-existing silver, and base coated the upper casing of the power pack, as the colour transitions didn't really make sense before, and added some silver buffing to the black tubes and pipes. Now the model had obviously got some scuffs and scrapes from being in the van again, so to cover those up and remind everyone of its story, I sponged on some dark brown paint to cover up those scuffs, and then silver paint within those brown battle damaged areas to look like exposed metal. I used a bright yellow paint to edge highlight all of the sharp points of the armour and sponged it on the wider top facing areas like the knees and chest. Now to give a nod to its Blood Ravens origins, I freehanded their mantra, Victory over Death, in Latin on the scroll above the knee pad icon we left intact. I gave the eyes a tasty green to yellow transition with some white reflection points at the top, while Hattie added some freehand details to the icons to make them pop a bit more. Some of the rocky base bits had been oversprayed a bit with yellow, so I retouched those areas with a slightly different grey, which should make the base look a bit more interesting anyway, as it only had 2 colours on it before. I also used that grey to dry brush the leather pouches too. At this point, Hattie was like, I don't want to be a pain in the ass, but can we take it apart? I have an idea. And yeah, that was a pretty good idea. We reassembled it, and well, that's it. We saved a life-size Space Marine statue from a junkyard, repainted it, gave it a new weapon, changed its chapter, and, as you probably guessed, gifted it to Andy, the owner of our local gaming store. He's an absolute star in the wargaming community, dedicates so much time and energy to hobbyists and gamers in his local area, runs tournaments, and also designs and manufactures his own line of awesome MDF terrain kits. I think we can all agree it's important to support businesses like 40k and people like Andy. Another thing that's totally mind-blowing to me is back when I originally rescued that Space Marine from the junkyard, my twins had just been born. But now they're 2.5 and are actually genuinely interested in what I'm doing. Always want to look at the models in my cabinets and are constantly asking if they can paint Space Marines too. My son is also obsessed with orcs as well, which is amazing.
Who's this?
He's a Gasco. Fuck.
Very good.
This project has been an absolutely wild ride, and I just personally want to thank you for joining us on it. Even more so, if you liked this video, maybe drop a comment down below or subscribe to the channel. All of those things will help other people find this video too. Thanks, as always, to the small army of incredible hobbyists just like you who signed up to support us on Patreon. Now, I know $2 a month doesn't seem like much, but it literally keeps the lights on, the rent paid, the kids fed, the dog fully stocked with treats, and we do this for you, so it means the world to us that you enjoy what we do enough to support us. Also, all of our newest members, like James Williams and Grace the Hyena, get shoutouts when they sign up too. Also, obviously, massive thanks to Exeter Cosplay and Iron Warrior Cosplay. We simply couldn't have done this without David and Duffrig's expertise, so please head along to their profiles linked in the video description and show them some love. Also, I'd love to give a little happy birthday shout out to Atreus, David and Angel's awesome little son, and a special hello to Sam and B. And I know that having video sponsors might seem like a bit of an annoyance at the moment, but just for the van hire, fuel, accommodation and materials, this video easily cost over £1,000 to make. So I genuinely want to thank NordVPN for sponsoring this video and actually helping us bring this crazy project to a close. Don't forget to check out their awesome 2-year deal linked in the video description, and thank you so much for watching. And I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.